And everybody, thanks for coming in and joining us for this presentation. We're going to be talking a lot about what we're doing with the project and film, and you get to know Oliver a little bit. So let me just show up the agenda for you here. We'll talk a little bit about his past with Such a Funny Life, how that sprung into doing Hero.LOSS.DIRT. We'll talk a bit about the investment and the perks, which this is a case in point. We're kind of living what the perks are about, getting a little bit behind the scenes. We'll talk a little bit how you can work together to make this a success, and then a little Q&A. If while you're listening, some questions jump out at you, please type them into the chat window so that we can kind of log that and get to that Q&A time. And I know some people don't want to forget what they're thinking, so go ahead and just drop it in the chat, and yeah, we'll close it out. So to get it started, Oliver, first of all, thanks for taking some time to do this. And can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Well, everyone, please, thank you so much for coming on board and joining in this webinar. So my name is Oliver Mann. I am the film director and producer of this current film, Hero.LOSS.DIRT, that we're developing. My story starts from the film interest came from even as a kid, as I watched plenty of movies as a child. I followed a lot of the greatest film directors, Oliver Stone, Spike Lee, eventually Alejandro Iñárritu González, and that was my inspiration to create films that were just really, really passionate and really told a great story. And I didn't know I was going to be a film director until I'd probably say 2003, 2004. I was in the military from 1998 to 2003. And if there are a couple of investors on board, we'll talk about just my writing history as well. So I actually started writing around 1998 for a musical group in Washington, D.C., and I was the head writer. So I really started to learn the writing format, and not necessarily film until I left the military in 2003 and decided I wanted to study film. So saying that, I went to Florida to study at a college called Full Sail, and Full Sail it's just a mecca, a school of mecca of different arts, meaning for music, for film, for graphic design. I actually studied sound design for music, and then eventually sound design for film. So as I was in Full Sail, studying late at night in labs meaning in the studio, recording, doing ADR, doing Foley, actually, I got the film bug, and I said, you know what, I might as well put everything together, not just music in my mind. Why don't I do music and film? Or what could I do that encompasses music and film? And lo and behold, I start to say, well, I guess I'll be a screenwriter. So then I started to, and then internet was it was full blossom. So I decided to look and figure out how to write a screenplay. And then I started writing screenplays while I was studying late at night, when I got off of class. And then I decided I was going to actually now full-time study film. So then I moved to New York, and then I went to New York Film Academy. And after that, I started to work various jobs, as you hear from many people that need to finance their project, their love passions, which happen to be short films. So like many great filmmakers, I decided to direct short films while I worked at various jobs. And then after my third short film, which was the Action Hero, I went to different festivals. This was about 2010 or 2011. That was the moment that I decided it's time to jump into the big leagues and write my screenplay for Such a Funny Life.
Speaking
and
of,
that's how I. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
No worries. Yeah, I just meant, speaking of, can you tell us a little bit about what that was like, Such a Funny Life? Because that's like, that was a big deal, obviously. It's a lot of work. Big step up from short film.
Yeah. Such a Funny Life was a film where it was a screenplay that I wrote. It took me I'd say about a year to 2 years to write. And simultaneously, I was still in the new field of being a feature film producer. So learning the finance aspect, how to actually finance that film, to raise equity for that film. So it was a great learning experience. It took about from the inception of writing the script to the moment that we shot the film, and then eventually it did its theatrical release and then video on demand. It was about a 6 to 7 year span. Actually, right before the pandemic was the last theatrical release. So it was a great stepping stone. It was just that, a feature film where you learn to have many people on set. You're in charge of every department, and you work with wonderful actors such as Gonzalo Trigueros, who you'll see right there. And he was the lead co-star of, that was Nate lead co-star. He was actually the lead star of Such a Funny Life. I say lead co-star because there were so many different co-stars on Such a Funny Life. Gonzalo Trigueros, Tom Ashton, Nastasia Strang, and yeah, it was a great experience, and that was the project that readied me for the sophomore film, which is a bigger budget. It's just a bigger project in general.
Wow. Okay. Then I'm going to assume you learned a lot, obviously, doing that big upgrade. And then now moving into HERO.LOSS.DIRT, I would assume there's like, you know, a lot of horsepower you can take from what you learned and then apply that to HERO.LOSS.DIRT. So I would think this is like going to be the next level thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a transition from budget-wise, not every, but more than likely you get a little bit more confidence for each film. Such a Funny Life was shot for under $500K, the entire budget, and then your ideas become a little bit more grandiose. They become a little bigger because you know you can accomplish and you know you can bring a feature film to fruition. So that means if the idea is bigger, the budget becomes bigger. So it's hard to do a multi-million-dollar film coming straight from the short film world. So you do need stepping stones, in my opinion. And if you don't need stepping stones, that's fine. But I wouldn't feel comfortable going into a budget of a multi-million-dollar film without doing a film that was close to $1 million, because therefore I know I can handle the departments and handle that responsibility. And that's how we landed to HERO.LOSS.DIRT. So yes, it definitely readied me for this project where I feel confident. My experience has definitely ascended. I'm ready to make this thing.
Okay, and so what's that process going to be like for you? The process of making it and then launching it, and then obviously you've got post situations, festivals, buyers, you know, that kind of market nowadays. There's a lot of buyers for a lot of various platforms and things to consider with all that.
Sure. So it's really about raising equity. That's why we're here. It's about raising equity for the film so we can greenlight the film. So we have a deal with this film where if we raise enough equity, we have a film production company / lender that will come on board and pretty much match what we have as far as equity to make this film a possibility. So saying that's the reason why we're raising equity right now for the idea of the film, but more than the idea of the film. This is pretty much, we are ready to go except for the fact of raising a little bit more equity and then casting. Once we feel comfortable, we're at a good place where we raised enough equity and we know that the lending company is ready to come on board. They're just ready to start fully casting, even though I personally myself have casted some members, actors that are really, really close to me, such as Gonzalo Trigueros, Tom Ashton, and Jean-Pointe de George. So you'll see the 3 actors there in those images. You know, some directors, they just know that they want to bring some actors with them because 1, they know they can get the job done. 2, on set, I'm not saying it's a wonderful, great time. It's a job. It really is a job, but it's fun to have a job when your friends are on set, and these are my friends. So besides speaking of being friends, they are extremely talented, and I want to see them really be successful, as I know they will, and to be stars, which I know they will.
Well, aren't some of them like working with Samuel Jackson right now? And
Tom Ashton, yes, Tom Ashton just finished a film, The Kill Room, with Samuel Jackson and Uma Thurman, and Gonzalo stays active in visual films and theater productions. Jean-Pointe de George, I believe he keeps himself busy as well, doing, I think he was in a couple of episodes of Saved by the Bell, the reboot of Saved by the Bell, and he keeps himself busy. So I want to make sure that these guys keep themselves busy, and they don't need me to do that, but I want to make sure that they stay busy so they can have, so they can stay fresh for this project, because I believe this project, they're going to really enjoy it. And this is going to be something that I'm going to call audible here. I believe they're going to really, really become just a household name with this, the same way that plenty of actors were in independent films and they completely flourished from that. So we'll talk about Ryan Gosling and then Half Nelson. We'll talk about Shia LaBeouf and A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints. So there's always those films that are character driven, not necessarily a high priced, a high budget film, but it's made with great integrity and great passion. So this is that project, and I plan to be one of the greatest film directors of this time, and I believe these actors that are coming on board will too, and the actors that we will cast, there will be well-known actors already out there in the market. This is going to be a film that they're going to be extremely proud of.
Well, I saw the quality of these actors in your last film, and then obviously the whole film package, and I can tell these aren't the kind of guys that attach themselves to anything. It's like they actually do quality work. So I know they're in this not just because they're your friend. They believe in it, and I can see why. I think that you got something special here. So I'm kind of curious then, what's the strategy for launch? And then what's the post strategy? Is it like, really want to go hit the film circuit? Really want to just attract like a Netflix or a buyer, or is it a combination, or is it really just kind of how the winds blow? Like what's the plan and the strategy there?
Great question. So yeah, if the wind blows, we want to make sure that we're extremely calculated. So we want to make sure that, hence the reason why I have executive producing Team Buffalo 8 to guide the film, because they've released plenty of films that have been on Netflix, that have done the theatrical releases and then on demand. So we're looking at various options here. We're looking at a buyout from Netflix, or we're looking at theatrical release and then taking it on video on demand, where we get revenue from that. I would probably say whichever is the best deal. Meanwhile, we're building up a buzz with distributors, which Buffalo 8 is doing, and then also we'll be doing that even more so once we're funded, once we're all crewed and casted up. I actually say casted and crewed up because cast is extremely important. Crew is very important. But a missing element right now is the cast. I want to make sure we have that, because I correlate cast with making sure our projections are correct. So saying that, once we cast up, we'll start speaking a little bit more to distributors to let them know that we are shooting HERO.LOSS.DIRT. We start letting them know about our social media channels as we're doing behind the scenes, as we're putting up footage of the actual film, not too much. It's rare that distributors actually buy out before the film begins, and then because if I choose a distributor as reputable and as creative, and not only that, their marketing is incredible, such as A24, they don't pick up films before it's made. They want to see the reaction of that film in a festival or two, since they actually go to each festival. They want to see how the crowd reacts, and then they want to see the quality of the film, and then they give you an offer. So we're looking at that, because if we take it to a festival, I just know it's going to blow it away. I'm looking at it as a winner, as sports, as competition, if you will, like the Michael Jordan of directing, where I want to make the best product and I want to win awards, and I want because simultaneously, and the correlation in that is, we made an amazing film on set with blood, sweat, and tears. So every day needs to be on set. It needs to be a very, very creative day, and knowing that we're making this film with passion for investors and for the audience, and sometimes the audience are the investors.
And speaking of that, you're doing it to film, right? So you've got to like tight rehearse, like everything's got to be really tight. Everyone's got to be dialed in. It's not just take after take after take and get something, right?
Right. So the format definitely does contribute to that. As far as us shooting in film, a lot of productions have changed to shooting in digital, because that makes it a little bit more easier. And not to get too filmic and too nerdy in that sense, if you will, but with a digital camera, you have unlimited takes if the director wants that, meaning there's no running out of film. With a film camera, no, film is a film. I'm talking about the actual material. Eventually you will run out of film if you didn't buy enough, and then there's a cost to that. It does take a chunk out of the budget, but there's nothing like it to see the actors. And we all haven't, but I was born and raised on that format. So it's hard to see films, especially dramatic films such as this film that's going to be HERO.LOSS.DIRT. It's hard for me to imagine that format not in that quality, as if I'm watching this dramatic movie where the characters are so far away that sometimes I don't even want to be in that world, because it's so dangerous and it's so passionate that I just want to sit back and enjoy the ride. It's almost that nervous feeling that I'm watching something so intense that that film layer keeps me a little bit safe.
Cool. Yeah, I'm personally a little excited about that. I think too many things are digital these days. I think a lot of fidelity and the quality gets lost in that, not just the visual, but I mean like the whole presentation. So, but speaking of, I know I got to move along a little bit. Can you talk about the investment? I know there's, you talked a little bit about it, but there's also the tax deductions. You talked a little about the capital, but yeah, the structures. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So the investment is 115 to 120% of net profits. And then, of course, there's a share of the company. And the share of the company is the actual film, because the HERO.LOSS.DIRT is only underneath the film, HLD Film Inc. So the moment we start recouping money back, that's when we'll actually start recouping and splitting up the profit in the shares. And as you see, it's 150, 120% back to the investor, and then after that it's a 50-50 split share between the production company and then between the pool of investors.
Okay, and then how's the tax deductions play into this?
So that's an interesting question. Great question. That kind of always gives us a step up, and it gives a lot of film companies, film productions a step up. I think the only difference is we're shooting this in New York, so there exists now a tax credit, film tax credit, where if you shoot in a different, it's pretty much promoting different film companies to shoot in their state, such as a very states that promote it much and a lot, and actually are very beneficial to production companies are Georgia, Louisiana, and then New York. The difference is New York is a fully refundable tax credit, meaning we get a complete refund back, where the other states are just a transferable tax credit, meaning you transfer it and then you can get it off of your tax credit. If you owe something in taxes, you can transfer that. However, with this in New York, it's a fully transferable tax credit, meaning we can opt out just the cash, literally a refund, and with that, use that to actually pay back investors. And we're talking about no less than 500K. I don't want to say no more than, because I'm aiming for the highest. It's pretty much 30% of the budget of the film, but not everything qualified. It's 30% of qualified expenses. So there's a category that some expenses just don't qualify, such as actors, marketing sometimes does not qualify. So there's a couple of categories they just will not put in as an expense, but if it's crew members, anything dealing with production, actually being on set and actually filming in New York, it's qualified. So once we actually do the calculations and we do the audit, we're looking at no less than 500K back.
Oh, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the perks then.
Sure,
you kind of talked a little bit about it, but I've got the whole table up so you can see it. But
yeah. So the perks start off with obviously one of these calls as well for investors that have invested or investors that will invest, and we'll probably be doing a couple more of these in the event that we're just doing a little bit of touch-ups and a little bit of follow-ups. So there's investor video calls. There's a special thanks credits in the end of the film, which is always cool to see. If you're in the theaters or you're watching it on Netflix and you kind of wait until the end of the film and you can say, hey, my credit is there. There's an IMDb credit, so it's kind of like you're actually a crew member. The investments can go as high as you want, where you visit the set, or you actually see us rehearsing with the actors, such as Gonzalo and I, perhaps the lead actor and I, and Gonzalo and I say I, as far as us actually philosophizing on the characters a little bit before, because there's a lot of discussions about the characters and questions that the actors have, which I love answering, to go deep into character development, and then we start rehearsing the scenes. So we'll have almost like a live stream of that, so it can bring them closer to that in the event. Well, it's going to be a little hard for them to actually attend that, depending on the perks. But if it's a perk where they actually can attend that, we'll make sure that they actually we'll set up a live stream where they actually can see that. And then it can go as high as you being an executive producer, coming to theatrical screenings. Also, if we're doing the press tour with us, the press run, so the full ride where you actually are an executive producer, being on set, seeing us actually shoot the film, being an executive producer trailer, just being a being treated like you, an executive producer on set.
Wow. Okay. So I've never actually seen something where that can, where many of those things can even happen. So that's
Right.
kind of cool. So part of this is that everyone can kind of help spread the word. Obviously, the more people that know about this, the better. Heck, if they show up at the film screenings and yell, that's even better. But right now online, you can jump in. The tag is HLD Film Inc. It's for every social platform you may or may not use. So if you use any of them, please do us a favor, pop in, do some likes, do some, comments, shares, all the typical social stuff. All that engagement kind of helps us spread the word out there and get more people involved. So HLD Film Inc. Any of the channels you like, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, even Reddit, LinkedIn, you name it. Obviously, LinkedIn's for more of the professional stuff, more business related. So if that's your level, come in there. If you want to do something a little more, just share with the world. It's pretty much the other channels. And obviously, you guys know the link for WeFunder. We got that on there. But so if anyone's got questions for Oliver, just go ahead and unmute yourself and just jump on in. And let me know if you're not able to.
Right. And if there's no question, or if you can't think of a question right now, obviously in the WeFunder campaign, there's a ask a question category, which send us a question, and I personally will respond.
Yeah. So just double checking. Jack, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How are you guys?
Hey, how are you?
When would shooting start approximately, or when do you have foreseen shooting?
Yeah, great question. So we're looking at fall of this year or winter of this year / the beginning of next year, no later than that. We are really on a rat race to raise equity and also to procure our lead actor, which definitely needs a little bit more equity. In our lead actor position, we're looking for our casting team, Best Casting. They casted Wind River, and they casted many other films that have, and Wind River had Jeremy Renner as a lead actor. So we're looking at talent that's going to bring the sales up, to make sure our projections are just that, to make sure we recoup that. So we are looking no later than fall or winter time of this year / next year, and we're going to be shooting in New York. New York City, and then upstate New York to act as West Virginia. So the film takes place when you're actually watching the film, it takes place in New York and West Virginia. But obviously, we don't want to shoot in New York and then go to West Virginia, because that'll completely defeat the purpose of. Actually, we won't qualify for the New York tax credit, and that's our main advantage here. So that's what we're looking at. So we're in development right now. Once we're funded, we start pre-production, which is pretty much, as I said before, crewing up, getting all crew, start location scouting, and then start purchasing for the art department, start hiring the lighting department, the camera department, which is extremely important, and many other departments. And I'll be producing that as well, along with another producer. So yeah, that's our timeline as far as us shooting the film.
Gotcha. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Any more questions?
I was just going to say, I'm going to guess that that time frame is actually pretty good for the mood too, because the tone of the film, summertime seems like that wouldn't quite be the right fit for the feel. I could be out of line there. I don't know, but it just looking at this, what I know of the script, I'm like, that sounds like that'd be the time to shoot it.
It's the time to shoot it for sure, albeit you shoot it in the summertime and then people say, well, great, it's not cold, but then it's too hot. And then if we shoot it in the wintertime, it could be too cold. So sometimes there's never a comfortable time to shoot a film. So you just have to shoot it when the time is right and when you're ready. So we're going to be ready in fall or winter time. So if we plan to shoot it in the only time that we probably won't shoot it is in December, because it's hard to get crew at that time, because a lot of them travel. So if we decided to shoot in November and we're ready at that time, we will do that. If we need a little bit more time, then we'll fast forward to January, but no later than that. Again, if it's extremely cold, I get it, but we've done it before. I've done it before, and different crews have done it before, and it could match the tone of the film.
Good point on the holidays. And yeah, I wasn't thinking of the staff. I was just thinking of the, you know, the visuals. How it's just going to look.
Yeah.
Richard, did you have any questions? Oh, can't hear you. Let me know. Ask you to unmute.
Yes, I'm just learning and listening.
Oh, okay, no worries. Well, we saw you there. Just wanted to make sure you didn't get missed.
Okay. All right, great. And I know that just to do a final touch, I know there was a group of screenwriters / investors that will be looking at this pre-recorded session, and actually we're going to join, but some actually had to cancel at the last minute. So this pre-recorded session is going to be going out to them. And I believe Richard also, we briefly spoke, and he might be a writer as well, or into writing space. So I also plan to give a little bit more of advice as well, just on the side, perhaps in other videos, as far as other investors that are also screenwriters or looking to delve into that world. So my one key advice here is, if you're delving into the screenwriting world and you have a script already written in a script format and you feel like it's ready to go, Slated is the #1 place to submit your script for analysis. Slated is where not all, but a lot of directors and a lot of screenwriters submit their film to get editors to review it and to literally give them a score to see what they have right and perhaps what they have right, perhaps what they have wrong. So that's always, and it's not all that, it's the industry standard. A lot of films have been made just from the score of Slated. I'll give you an example of a film that got a lot of got an analysis in Slated and got a lot of pickup and a lot of reputation for having a high score from Slated, and eventually they picked up an executive producer there and then financiers there, and it started off with the screenplay. So the screenplay was submitted, which was Moonlight, and Moonlight, as we know, won the Academy Award. So if you are a fledgling screenwriter and you're looking to see, hey, what's the next thing that I should do, the basics, and you feel like your script is done in a written format and you just want to have eyes on it, you could always speak to me. I've been in that position, writing screenplays for more than actually 15 years. But Slated is definitely my advice, to submit it there, see what they say about the format, and then follow their guidelines.
And we'll definitely have some more webinars coming up that highlight some of these specific topics so that people with specific interest, we can drill down a little deeper. This is obviously pretty high level.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's it. Oliver, thank you for taking some time. I really appreciate it.
More my pleasure.
And guys, thank you for coming out and checking us out and supplying a few questions and helping this thing along, because it's great to see people involved. It's great to see what people think, what their questions are, and actually get a chance to get Oliver out in front and talking to people live. We're going to be doing a lot more of this throughout this development. Things are going to get very exciting, and you're going to have basically a front row seat to not only talk to Oliver, but see how this whole thing comes together from STEM to release and post. So it's going to be pretty exciting. So great to have you guys along for the ride.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, Oliver.
Of course.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye, Jack.
All right, bye-bye.